Recession-Proof. Welcome to another episode of Build with a Plan with Coach David. Today I want to talk about, what's on a lot of people's minds right now is, what happens when things are hitting the bad times, recession, that type of stuff. There's been lots of talk right now of tariffs going back and forth with counter tariffs. And there are a lot of business owners out there that are really struggling with how to move forward and what do they need to do to make sure that they can be recession proof. And that's what I want to talk about today. COVID happened not that long ago, hit a lot of businesses hard. Those who were able to pivot were able to survive. Those who were not able to pivot, they kind of perished, if you will. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, right? There's a lot of businesses out there that are built on the business model of one-time purchases. And this can make it difficult for the client to buy from you again. If you're selling bigger items, a great example that I'll touch on a bit later is if you're a dog breeder. When you sell that dog, then they're going to have, that person has bought the dog. They're likely not going to buy from you again, or if so, it will likely be 10 to 15 years down the road after the dog they just bought from you gets older. Yes, sure, if you've got good service and, it's a nice breed, you might get recommendations. But again, those are just one-time purchases. And it'll be a long time before that client comes back again. So what I want to talk about today specifically is reoccurring revenue. Now that's the best model to keep money flowing, revenue flowing in, generally speaking, on a monthly basis. It's a very powerful business model that pretty much every software company out there uses right now. I come from, in my past, the design side of things, and Adobe had this suite called the Creative Suite. It had a layout, an illustration, and it had the infamous, Photoshop that everyone likes to use in movies and TV shows. Oh, we'll just Photoshop this. Now, you used to be able to buy that for about $1,500, and it was a lifetime subscription on that. Right? But here's the thing. Once you've bought it, yes, you get upgrades, but those they're not really revenue generating. But when you think about it now, one time, they don't need to buy from you for a very long time. Then they went to a subscription model. Now they charge $90 a month now for that. So now we're talking just over $1,000 per year to use that software. So in 2 years, that's over $2,000, which far exceeds the $1,500 that it used to cost to buy it outright. Now use year 3, year 4, so you can see how the subscription model works super well for software companies. Hot water tanks, same thing. Back in the day, I don't know if some of you out there were old enough, but you used to be able to either buy a phone or rent a phone or buy a receiver for your cable or rent a receiver. And of course, the renting always seems cheaper in the beginning because it's a much smaller monthly expense. But over time, it adds up to far more than if you were to buy it outright. So, what does that mean for you? What can you create as an ongoing service or product for your business so that you can create this business model that employs reoccurring revenue? Think service plan, consumable products, great consumable products. Business model there is the inkjet printer. Most of you can go out there and you can buy an inkjet printer for $50, $60, maybe even $80. I go, oh, that's great. But then within a month or two, because they only load it with a little bit of ink, now you have to go buy more ink. And how much is that ink? It's about the same price as buying a brand new, slightly cheaper. But they say, oh yeah, you can get more pages with this. You don't need to buy a new printer, And besides, you've already got that printer working. You don't want to bring in a new printer and figure out how to get it to work. Now that's not necessarily a subscription plan, but those are consumables. Another great consumable scenario is something like back to the dog breeder. You sell the dog once, but if you can find yourself a really good dog food product, and then you can either just make sure it's just not your regular Purina, dog food out there that you can get at any discount pet store or at Walmart, that type of stuff. You don't want that. You want a premium dog food that is hard to get pretty much anywhere else. And then if you're in a position, you can private label that. Go to the manufacturer and say, okay, I want to private label your food with my branding on it. And then now you're selling the dog, but now you're selling a premium dog food, right? It's a consumable. They're going to eat through that bag and then they're going to buy from you again. And this is why you want to make sure that it's a premium dog food that the pets really like. So they're going to keep coming back, time and time again. Now think about this. You can install a pool, or you could be the person that supplies the chemicals and openings and closing of that said pool. Now, pool companies, they can do both. If they were smart, they do the one-off, but you got to remember too, you sell that pool once, maybe you make a bigger chunk of revenue or profit on that, but then you got to go find yourself a new client to make that money. So let's say you install the pool, but now you can supply the chemicals, you can supply the closings and the openings, anything that has to do with the pool that is a consumable. Now you've got revenue coming in on a very regular basis. Another thing you can think about is, either a subscription plan, or even, prepaid payment plans for services that you're either going to render in a little bit, or something that you can say, you know what, we'll do the service now, but we're going to equal bill you over the next 12 months. Yes, I know there are other forms of credit available, but those typically you work with a service, you pay them a fee, they buy basically the debt from you, and then they collect from the customer. You get your money up front, but it's usually discounted. So what I'm suggesting is you fund the monthly payments, the equal payments, and that way you can charge and you're receiving money on a regular period. And the great thing there too is you can charge more monthly for that service. Like just the easy math, let's say it's $1,200 for that service that you provide. Then you could say, well, it's $1,200 or it's $125 a month. $125 over that 12 months works out to be much more than the $1,200. So you start controlling that and you start to make a little bit more profit because you've spread it over time, but you can charge a bit more. Just like all the car insurance companies out there, you can pay one price, get it slightly cheaper, or you do it over the monthly payment, and then you actually end up paying more. And another great thing that I've seen is the pet insurance. Now, the pet insurance, of course, is typically for services that they're going to receive at some point. Just like any insurance company out there, you're prepaying for a service that you might need. Chances are, some of those you are going to use, but some of them you may not. Like if it's a major surgery for your pet that's covered under the insurance, you pay a higher premium. But if you never actually have to call on that insurance for a major surgery, then it's money into the veterinarian's pocket and not yours. So whatever business that you have, whether it's a product or service, look at, can you set up a service plan? Can you start introducing consumable products? Can you have a subscription plan? Or can you have a payment plan? Or can you do prepay for services like insurance, that type of stuff? So that is one of the best ways to make sure that you're recession proof, because that way you have money coming in on a regular basis. And those clients are there long term. You don't need to, sell it once and then go try to find a new client and sell it again and buy a new client. But then you've got them and they're buying from you on a regular basis. So that's the best way, in my opinion, for you to be able to become recession proof. Hopefully you are enjoying this podcast, Built with a Plan. If you're just joining me now, there are 9 previous episodes. Please get caught up. And until next time, Coach David out.